Hi, good morning. Maybe you want to come closer since we have some space left and we can have a more closer chat. Well, first of all, I would like to start by thanking the organization and Ministry for Municipal and Rural Affairs and Housing for this invitation in CITYSCAPE Global. It's an honor being here and being able to share my knowledge with with you all today. Well, my name is Greta Tresserra. I'm an international consultant for sustainable development, and basically, I have a serious problem with CO2. The impact of the construction building in the climate change is huge, and this is what I will talk to you about today. Let's start with a brief context and some key concepts to understand the roots of the problem and the possible solutions. Look at this graph. Here you can see the levels of CO2 in the atmosphere over the last hundreds of thousands of years. And you can see this peak here at the very end. Well, it took off during the Industrial Revolution. And since the decade of the 50s, it has started breaking records and never stopped since. Why this even happen? Because we have been burning fossil fuels, which is a process that releases CO2 emissions to power our homes, our companies, our planes, our cars, and everything that functions. Second, because there is a lot more of us. In the last 70 years, the population has tripled, and so our consumption patterns. While the increase of population in the world is of 1%, the consumption is the triple. And to produce all these material goods that we are using, we need vast quantities of energy. And this energy produces CO2 emissions. Why? Because the energy production is based on the burning of fossil fuels. And this generates the CO2 that gets around our planet and gets trapped and doesn't allow that the warming gets released to the atmosphere. This is the so-called greenhouse effect, and this is why the temperatures in the world are rising. Today, we are 1 degree hotter than pre-industrial times. According to the UN, it is possible to get a warming of 1.5 degrees in 1 century. This should be fine. The problem of global warming is the speed. We are now on the track to hit 1.5 degrees in only 10 years. So what was planned to happen in 1 century has happened in a decade. And this is causing big catastrophes. For example, the sea levels are rising because when water gets warmer, it expands, and entire coastal cities can disappear within the next 80 years, such as Miami in the US or Osaka in Japan. The process of desertification are accelerating, and soon we will have water shortage, food shortage, and even coffee could disappear. But what can we, from the architecture and urban planning, can do? Well, first of all, we should be aware that we, as architects and agents of the building sector, have a huge responsibility. 40% of the global emissions are due to the building industry, as well as 1/3 of the waste that is produced in the world. So we can be either responsibles or change makers. Why does this even happen? So since the Industrial Revolution, we have been using remote and non-renewable resources, such coal or oil or aluminium or plastics, etc. When I say remote, I mean distant in time and in distance, which demands a lot of energy to use these materials. And again, a lot of energy means a lot of CO2 emissions, which means global warming. So we didn't do things well. We cannot base the development of a sector in consuming infinitely resources in a planet that is finite. So now it's time for a shift of paradigm. We need to do a transition towards a new approach of a new conception of the built environment. that is more connected to the place, that uses local resources, that recovers cultural heritage, that enhances local identity and respects the traditional wisdom. And this doesn't mean getting back to the past. It's quite the opposite. We should use tradition as the catalyzer for innovation. For instance, we are already using 3D printing technology to use traditional materials like earth, as you can see here. And to do this transition, we will need to work in 3 areas. First of all, mitigation. As you have seen, we have to stop global warming. The consequences are devastating, and we should put a stop on it. Second, adaptation. Unfortunately, the effects of climate change are already tangible. So we have to work to have more resilient cities and territories. And third, we need to accelerate. As you can see, the big problem of the global warming is the speed. So we have to accelerate these processes of mitigation and adaptation if we don't want to finish in this scenario I just showed. So let's deepen into mitigation. There is a huge potential in cutting the CO2 emissions only by using decarbonized materials, instead of conventional materials, as steel or aluminum. They have a potential to reduce by 50 to 75% the embodied emissions. And the embodied emissions, we haven't been paying enough attention to it, which are the emissions produced by the production of these materials. It's not about the energy that the buildings consume, which is the operational CO2, which is normally where we put the attention. And the good news is that we have plenty of low carbon footprint materials. I will begin with bamboo, because it's the more sustainable material on Earth. And this is because it has an outstanding capacity to absorb CO2 during its growth. It can also grow very, very fast, up to 1 meter a day in certain countries. So it's a very renewable building material. At my studio, we have been working for this material for over a decade now, and also helping other architects to implement the material in their projects, even getting international awards and with beautiful and very successful results. Another carbon neutral material, very interesting, it's timber. It's the same principle than bamboo. It also can capture CO2 while it's growing, not so much carbon because it doesn't grow so fast, but the advantages is the timber industry is already very developed, especially in countries like Canada or Singapore or US. And it helps to create more healthy environments, and also in terms of isolation and acoustic quality, have very positive properties. And earth is a carbon neutral material that, especially here in this region, you should be paying more attention, because it's available locally and because it belongs to the local tradition. Here in this project of the Swiss architects, Herzen and de Meuron, you can see an example of how innovation and the industrialization are compatible with working with decarbonized materials. Well, now let's go to adaptation. Our built environment is already at risk due to climate change impacts, and so is the world population. How can we adapt our cities and territories to this climate change? How can we guarantee habitability in environments that are every day more hostile? Well, let's take the example of the heat island effect, which is what we have in many cities that are full of asphalt, and they get warmer and warmer, and they cannot reduce temperatures even during the night because the asphalt absorbs this warmth and releases during the night. By implementing green infrastructure and naturalizing the cities, this can be a significant improvement. So the concept would be to use the nature and its renewable resources as key instrument for development, reshaping the natural elements as service providers. These are the so-called nature-based solutions that can help to reduce temperatures by using, for example, green roofs or vertical gardens, mitigating the heat island effect as you have just seen. This helps to improve the quality of air. Also for water treatment, as you can see, using plants, we can really clean tons of water, ensuring food and water security, also doing waste treatment and reduction of disaster risk. We, with my team, are now working developing the portfolio of nature-based solutions for the government of Panama under a program of the European Union. And we are using nature as instrument to build a sustainable environment, to build this resilience towards climate change. And we are doing the planning to 2040 to implement green infrastructure to protect the coast, the rivers, the agriculture, and the human settlements. The goal is to adapt the country to the climate change effects. Look here, only in half a year, how have they greened the areas. The oasis would be the paradigm of this new approach. It can be created by humans in the middle of the desert, which is a very hostile place, and also belonging to the tradition of this country and this region. And last but not least, let's talk about acceleration. As I already mentioned, the problem is the speed of climate change. So we need to work together to accelerate the processes we are doing to mitigate and to adaptate. What we are doing with my team is now supporting in this direction the Spanish government, helping them to create and to build a vision with ambition and compromise, joining forces with other international organizations. We are doing this by providing technical assistance to develop norms and regulations, developing technical reports, and also digital tools to collect and visualize data. For instance, this is the visualizer, Urban 3R. Here we can see all the patterns of the energy behavior of each building in Spain, of the whole Spanish building stock. Second, we are working in advocacy and generating consensus through all the agents of the sector and through different administrations, and also promoting international alliances. This is the signature of the Barcelona Declaration that was last year, and we managed to get together 12 institutions, including the Ministry for Housing in Spain, the Spanish Council of Architects, the European Council of Architects, and the International Union of Architects, to sign a document that is a compromise to work together towards the decarbonization of architecture. And also informing and upskilling not only architects, but other agents of the sector, and also the civil society, by doing publications, organizing training and educational programs, and also conferences and other events. For example, Decarbonizing Architecture. This is a yearly gathering that we hold in Barcelona. You are very invited. This year will take place the 21st of November, so I hope to see you, some of them there. So, to conclude, we have to decarbonize the sector. You have seen it's a big problem, and we have a big responsibility. And this will only happen by MAA, mitigation, adaptation, and acceleration. But don't panic. This change is full of opportunities. It will also bring economical growth, creation of new markets, innovation, international alliances, prestige for the countries that are doing things well, and improvement in the quality of lives. Thank you.